Hello, hello, and welcome to Journey to SEA 2024. I am Shellyan Edwards Barron, your co host, your writing specialist. I said co host. Why did I say co host? I'm thinking of so many things right now because I'm excited. I am excited about the next 2 weeks because I finished up my comprehension package today to send out to those who registered for the comprehension program I'm doing. And I feel really excited about that program. So forgive me, forgive the slip up just at the beginning. And today is our last session together for the term. Imagine that. It has been quite a ride, and I hope it has been very useful and helpful to you and that you are learning a lot. And please feel free, message me. Let me know how things are going, how you're able to understand and implement the suggestions that I'm giving. And let others know if the program is helpful for you, because I really want to reach as many people as possible. So for those of you who are checking in for the first time, today's the last day, but guess what, you can go back. All the videos are recorded, so you can check back at the recordings and see all the stuff that we've covered. We've been at it since April this year, covering many, many different things. So you know what? Let I think before we kind of really get into everything, we can do where is it? We will do a quick review of all the topics that we've covered. I'm only going to do the review really for this term, but there are lots of topics. I think at the beginning, actually, you know what? I'm going to start at the beginning so you can see. Just in case you've missed any of the topics, you can really go back and check the videos. And while I'm looking for that information, because guess what? I got a blue screen on my computer this morning, almost didn't make it to the live. So I am so happy and grateful, feeling really blessed to be here talking to you, because I don't know how you feel, but when I see a blue screen, because I do everything online, that blue screen, I felt it like right here. But it sorted itself out. I'm gonna have to get the laptop checked, so I'm looking forward to a little break as well. But let's see, let's look for the home schedule. So while I'm doing that, for those of you who are new, if this is the first session you're taking in, let me just tell you a little bit about myself and about what I do, and a little bit about what's upcoming as well, so that you can have an idea of, why I think and why I'm doing these programs, because I really do believe that they would help those of you preparing for SEA 2024. So I call myself a creative writing specialist because I work with students who are struggling with their writing and who are having challenges for whatever reason. I also work with students who need a little extra. And when I say extra, we're not just talking about those who are studying, we're talking about those who are doing well. But we don't want them to get complacent either. So I work with them to help them continue revising and expanding on their skills so that they can become even better writers. So overall, I work with authors, and I call my students young authors, young writers, because that's what they are. I work with authors at different levels. So I work with authors at the primary school level, secondary school level, tertiary level. So I work with adults preparing for their master's thesis, and I work with authors who are preparing books for publishing. So I work with writing across the board, across ages and across different genre. And so when it comes to the group that I work with through SEA, the Peaceville Approach, that's the Facebook group that I admin, along with Giselle Russell Clark, who is a whiz at the math. Um, we we really want to provide a space where parents can come to get advice, to get support, to ask their questions about anything SEA related, anything school related. And so, you don't feel like you're alone in the journey heading toward SEA. It really can be intimidating. Um, I also work with teachers. In fact, this December, I have a professional development series that I'm running one for report writing, one for narrative writing, and parents are welcome to join. I'll share more information about that later on, but I know it can be really intimidating when you want to help students with their creative writing, but you don't know where to begin, you don't know what to do next. And that's really one of the main reasons I'm doing this series, to help as much as possible to give you that structure, that guidance in an area that I am really passionate about. But for many people, writing kind of, feels like pulling teeth. And I've had extractions, so I don't say that lightly, right? So let's see. Let's go through. Wow, I'm not finding things as quickly as I normally do. That blue screen kind of really messed things up, boy. All right. So handout, flashcards. All right. So I'll get back to that in a little bit because I really wanted to do just a review in the beginning. But let's get into what is scheduled for today because I do have that information easily accessible. And then we will come back to the review. So we're starting with reports as we usually do. And for those of you who've been following, we have looked at several different types of reports recently. We started with incidents, then we went on to accidents, competitions, events, and activities. And today's session is going to be on natural disasters. Now, natural disasters is a kind of unit by itself. Um, and I have it separately, even though lots of people ask, okay, is it an incident? Is it an accident? Where exactly does it fall? Well, because it's such a unique thing, I actually have it separate, um, as a separate discussion. It's in a separate um, topic when I do reviews with my students. And so if you are wondering about natural disasters and you don't yet have a copy of my report writing challenge series, it's a digital series where you get a lot of information about the different types of reports, including natural disasters, and sample reports, prompts that you can work with, details and guidelines of what to do, and so on. So it's really a pretty comprehensive series. If you don't already have a copy, then I would suggest you get one because that's one of the recommendations I'm going to be giving regarding what to do over the break. Now, technically, the break should be about 3 weeks because this is the last week of school. School for most students will be closing on the 8th, which is this Friday. And then we have 2 weeks before the Christmas, before Christmas, and then we have Christmas week, and I believe school is resuming um that first week of January. So we have roughly about three, let's say maybe 3.5 weeks of the break. And during that time, while yes, students absolutely need a break, we don't want them to lose the momentum that they've been building over the term. But of course, you want to approach it strategically. You don't want to just, hey, come do some schoolwork. We don't want that kind of vibe. Remember, I'm all into multisensory learning, which is making learning fun, making creative writing fun and interesting. So you want to really work on a couple of things, a half an hour here, 45 minutes there, make the writing feel like part of what is expected and not just, this sort of punitive kind of activity. We really don't want that. We want students to feel calm and relaxed during their writing practice. We don't want the anxiety because that actually reduces some of the focus that they have. So we want them to be calm. We want them to feel prepared. We want them to feel confident. And how do we do that? By making sure they understand the foundation concepts, right? So natural disasters, let me just quickly give you a definition of um, what natural disasters are. So, well, natural disaster reports, and that is reports that provide information on situations where someone experienced or observed a natural disaster. And that's, yeah, straightforward, right? That's pretty much what it is. So let me put that and share that on the screen. And for those of you who are looking at the live on YouTube, and on in the Facebook group SEA, the Peacefield Approach, these comments that I put up seem to only show up on my Facebook page, which is Word Coach Youth. So if you want to see the comments, or after the live you want to go back and be reminded of the comments. Yeah. Wow, I copied and pasted it and that did not paste well. So let's try that again. It gave me a break in the Word for some reason. Um, yeah. So right. So let's do that again with, you know, yeah, proper spacing this time. So, yes, if you want to go back to the comments, you'd have to go to Wood Coach Youth on Facebook, and all the comments show up there. I think that's because that's the primary account that I registered when I came to StreamYard. So that's the first one. So that's the one that it comes up on. Anyway, so natural disaster reports provide information on situations where someone experienced or observed a natural disaster. So clearly some more spacing. But okay, just put a space between natural and disaster. Oh, having a time of it this morning. It's our last day, so we're having fun as usual. Um, so now what does that mean? What exactly are considered natural disasters, right? So we're looking at things like hurricanes, earthquakes, floods, landslides. Um, we want really to consider the types of disasters that students may experience or encounter in our region of the world. So natural disasters do also include snowstorms and blizzards and that kind of thing, but they aren't the type of disasters that we would experience in our part of the world. So the ones that we are more likely to experience are the ones that I've listed on the screen, and these are the basic ones. I I think, yeah, I covered most of them. So hurricanes, earthquakes, floods, landslides, volcanic eruptions, forest fires, tsunamis, and other natural occurrences that we may not have thought of at the time, but anything that's considered a natural occurrence. Now, these are the ones that if a prompt comes regarding a natural disaster, they're um, they're more likely to encounter one of these. And the thing with focusing on natural disasters, what we're looking at is the type of disaster itself, what actually happens, and how people respond. So, in terms of how people respond, one of the things that we really do need to pay attention to with natural disasters is the I would say like a three phases of responses. So we're looking at three phases of responses. Um, all right, I'm going to put that up so you can see that as well. So phase one would be preparation. Phase two would be endurance, and I'll explain all of what these mean. And phase three would be recovery, right? So we're when we think of natural disasters and writing about natural disaster reports, we have a beginning, middle, end, just like all the other reports. And the beginning, middle, end for natural disasters we could group it into three phases. So we have preparation, endurance, and recovery. During the preparation, most natural disasters, like let's say hurricanes, storms, um, floods, we can have some sort of foreknowledge of when these things are coming. So most definitely, like hurricanes in particular, and tsunamis even, there's quite often forewarning because of, different activities by the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management. We have the Meteorological Office. So we have some agencies who would be paying attention to these things because natural disasters cause widespread damage and harm, and they affect the entire country, not just one individual or one family or one community. So one community may be hit harder than others, but generally it affects the entire community. So, entire country. So, with natural disasters, there's quite often a lot of preparation. And so, part of this preparation could be um, directly on the coming up to the situation, especially if it's a hurricane. There's usually forewarning, and we're told, okay, schools are going to be closed and different activities. Board up your windows, make sure your roofs are secure, and those kinds of things. And so that's the preparation phase. Endurance would be if you're going to be experiencing what happened during the disaster itself. You can write about that. And endurance would mean, we want to get that step by step. Okay, what did you experience? Earthquakes are one of those that you would have a lot of endurance included because and then what happens during that period? Earthquakes, we don't get forewarning, really. We might get a little rumbling, and then they might say, okay, um, based on seismic activity, be aware that we may experience earthquakes, severe earthquakes over the next period, etc., etc. However, when it's going to happen, nobody knows. Earthquakes happen, landslides happen. Um, and so for those, the part of the main focus is going to be the experience of it. So, what happened? What was observed? What did people do during that period? And then finally, the recovery. Um, that recovery period would be cleaning up, trying to get back to normal, who's responsible for what, first responders coming on the scene, attending to injured, making an assessment of the damage and that kind of thing. That would be considered the phase three recovery. So when it comes to natural disasters, there's a range of things that you can write about. And so what really should dictate what is included in the report would be what the prompt says. Just like all the others, we focus on the prompt and what the prompt is asking of us, right? Let's see. Let me go through. Here is a prompt that you could consider. Let's say um, there's a flooding. So there was heavy rainfall in your area, which resulted in flooding. Write a report on the situation. So in that case, you might want to mention the rainfall because it's part of the prompt, so you can include it, and then focus on what happened during the flood, waters rising, and so on, and then the cleanup after, and that kind of situation. And so when you're doing the cleanup, you're not necessarily giving like all of it. Remember, reports are meant to cover um, what I call like finite space and time. So we're not writing about over like, 3, 4 days kind of thing, unless the water took that long to subside. Those are the only ways that you could really work around that. Otherwise, the flood, the water would subside, um, and then cleanup would begin. Who's responsible? Did the local authorities come in and assist? These are the kinds of things that you're thinking about with natural disasters. So there are a few areas to cover. And just as you did with the incidents, accidents, competitions, activities, and events, what your focus is this week would be on doing some research on natural disasters, building vocabulary for natural disasters, as well as the understanding different types of natural disasters, how people generally respond, what is normally done, who are the authorities involved in the situation. Because many students have not even heard of the Office of Natural Disaster Preparedness and Management, and that's the is it natural disaster or is it just disaster? I think it's ODPM, so Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management, right? That's it. So many students have never even heard of that organization, far less to understand what they even do. So this is a good opportunity. Not only is it prudent for you as parents and teachers to make sure students are aware of all of these things with natural disasters, in general, it is also going to be useful for report writing. you know, go on their website, find out what are the general procedures, look at the way they report on disasters and the kinds of things that they say. What is the protocol when there's a flood? Who goes out to check? When they record and they assess damage, how do they do it? Who assesses the damage? Where do police and fire and army come in when it is time for cleanup? And, um, the county council, the councillors, the member of parliaments, what is happening in each of these phases and stages and types of disasters, who does what, when do they do it, all of this kind of information. Because remember, as I said at the beginning, um, the best way to help students be calm and confident in an exam is to have them as prepared as possible. And while we're preparing them, we're not preparing them with high anxiety. So we're not telling them, well, you need to do this because if you don't, we don't want that kind of anxiety. If you ask a question and the student can't answer it, there's no need to say, well, you should have known that. They don't. Whether they should have or not, the fact is, right now, they don't. So, what do you do in that situation? Two things. One, you provide them with some information and you guide them where to find more information. So, you're teaching them two things. One, that they are supported and they're getting the information that they need, as well as you're teaching them how to do their own research to find out what else they need. And those are really two key important things to work on when you're developing writing skills, because you don't want students to be dependent on you. Which reminds me, I wanted to mention something about parents supporting children. I know it's important that you guide and you support. As I said, you present some information, but you also need to allow students to think for themselves. Even if what they come up with is not what you would have come up with, that's fine, because remember, you're not the one writing the exam, they are. So you have to allow them to come up with things on their own. And after they come up with these things, then you guide them. If it's appropriate, you reinforce and you support and you say, all right, wonderful, let's run with this. If it's not suitable, then you say, okay, here's what you can add to that, or here's what you need to take away from that, and you continue with your guidance. That is the kind of support students need, not necessarily someone, sitting with them and telling them what to do or answering questions for them. You want to guide and encourage them to come up with their own answers. This is one of the reasons why I don't give students a list of phrases and sentences to include in their own writing. I have them come up with the ideas, so I give them categories and we brainstorm and they come up with their own descriptions. I work with them to refine it and then they can freely use that because they came up with it. That is how students build confidence in their writing. If you give them sentences and phrases every single time and you tell them, use this in your writing, are you telling them that you're confident that they can do what they're supposed to do? Are you showing them how to do it and building their confidence in their own writing? The answer is no, at least from my perspective. If I give you two sentences and I say, use this in your writing, I'm telling you that I don't trust you to come up with something that will work well. And this is why, over this vacation period, while you're practicing, and I know there's a sense of time running out because of we're at the end of the year, and the end of term scores, if you've gotten them back, may not be what you would have liked. It's not a point in time to, throw in the towel and say, okay, here's what, memorize this essay or memorize this report. It's not that point. What you're telling a student, if you do that, you're telling a student, I don't trust you to do the writing that you're supposed to do. And that is going to be undermining the student's confidence. So you want to give them that freedom. Now is the time to allow them to make mistakes so that you can guide them and support them to change the mistakes so that the next time around the writing would be better. So over this vacation, allow them to do their own thing. Allow them to approach things in ways that, it's not going to be perfect the first time, but you're there to guide and you're there to support, and you would be able to help them really understand what to do so that they have their confidence in their own writing. So lots of parents ask me, how do I get my child to be more confident in their writing? Allow them to make the mistakes, show them that mistakes are okay. This is what we learned from them. And then the next time around, they would know that, hey, this is my writing. I did this. I developed. I got better. That is how you develop the confidence. So take the time to do the research. The research is not a waste of time. Research is absolutely imperative. Take the time to show them how to plan. Absolutely imperative. Planning is not a waste of time. Take the time to show them how to revise and to rewrite. Rewriting is not a waste of time. So, in fact, let me close off quickly with the natural disasters, and then we would go on to the narratives, because in narratives this week, what you're focusing on is rewriting. So last week we looked at analyzing reports that were stories that were already written. And so this week we're going to be looking at rewriting and the importance of rewriting to student development. So let's see, what else do I need you to know about the natural disasters? If you have any questions, feel free, let me know. But I think the other thing to consider with natural disasters is the uniqueness of each type of disaster and the fact that there are specific jargon for specific words that may be used. Learning that vocabulary is really important. And so that is something that you would need to research. So, for example, a word like debris, debris can be used in hurricanes, in floods, in most natural disasters, and it's a unique word that students may not have encountered outside of a discussion on natural disasters. But it's definitely a word that they need to know and need to know how to spell, because it's not spelled the way it's pronounced. Debris. It's spelled Debris. So there's that S at the end that is not pronounced. It's a silent S. And so students would need to know, hey, this is how to spell this word, this is how you use it. So take the time during this week. Most students would understand what a natural disaster is, but we start with definitions as always and make sure they're clear on the different types that they might be encountering and they might have to write about. And then we look at vocabulary, we look at sequencing of actions, we look at what's important, what's irrelevant to leave out. And we're going to be also looking at this week, making sure that students feel confident in their own writing by allowing them to write and make mistakes and say, okay, yeah, this didn't quite work as well. Here's what you can try instead. And you see that last part? Here's what you can try instead. That is the critical part of the feedback that helps improve student writing. So many of us have a tendency to tell students, hey, um, go and do more descriptions in that. You need more details. Go and add more details. Well, how do I add more details? Where do I add more details? What kind of details do I need to add? So it's not enough to tell us a child what's missing. And for any writer, for example, anybody working on improving their writing, it's not enough to tell them what's missing. What's important is to tell them how to add it in, how to fix it. So if there's a problem with the plot, how do they fix that? If there's a problem with description, how do they fix that? And so, excuse me, those are the things that I would be discussing with students in the classes that I have coming up. With the comprehension, it's not enough to tell them, okay, you need to give evidence. That's part of the requirement. But where do you find the evidence? How do you find it? How do you include it in your answer? In reports, it's not enough to say, you know, be more formal with your writing, use better vocabulary. What kind of vocabulary should I be using? What does it mean to be more formal? How do I become more formal? With the narratives, with the stories, be more descriptive, add more description. You know, give more. What are the three things that I usually hear? Be more descriptive, um, add more description, make your story more exciting. How exactly does a student do that? Those are the questions that I'd be answering during that narrative program. So I believe there are a few more spaces left. And as you know, I keep my classes small. So I, whatever number I have come Friday, I am closing off. And because classes are starting Monday for the first round of comprehension and for the report writing, and classes are just 350 if you have the time. Comprehension is 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Report writing is 5:30 to, sorry, not 5:30, 3:30 to 5:30. So 2 hour sessions. And during each session, what we're going to be doing is having some fun because remember, learning about writing, multisensory, doing interactive things, and we're going to be learning specific skills and strategies so that students would understand exactly what they need to do. They've been told all term what is missing. Now they need to know exactly how to fix that. So that's what we'll be focusing on for the reports. The narrative writing and the second round of comprehension classes, I think that program is filling up, but if there's still room, those classes would close next week, Friday, which would be the 15th. So if you're still trying to work out how to manage things and how to pay for it, if that's your concern, send me a message. Let me put my number on screen. because like I said, the classes are small, but I want to make it available to as many people as possible. And so if that's your only concern, then let's have a conversation and see. And that goes for the teachers and parents who want to learn how to help their students directly. So this program, while it covers really important concepts for those working toward SEA 2024, if you know parents and teachers who are going to be working with students for SEA 2025, which means that the students are currently in standard 4, then this training program is also going to be really great for them, because I'll be going through the foundation of what is included in report writing, how to teach a lot of those things, how to introduce it, how to engage with students during the class session, how to give the feedback, how to grade it, and how to help students improve their writing step by step. The report writing program is $7.95, and included in there you get materials, so worksheets, textbooks, workbooks, journals, everything that you need to teach report writing. And then for the narrative writing, you get the poster, the 12-point plot, because, you know, every time I say this, I have to pause. Most people underestimate the importance of plot. Many students, they struggle with the descriptive writing, but that is because they're not clear on plot, and they're so concerned about making things exciting that they don't know how to address everything. When a student is comfortable and confident with plot and they get the plot clear, their descriptions develop even more. Why? Because they know where to add the descriptions and they know how. Because when I teach plot development, my plot series includes what we call reactions. It's like a cause and effect kind of development. And that includes the reactions. And reactions are places where you include descriptions, how, feelings and all those things. So if your child or your students, they're having trouble understanding where to put descriptions and how to develop descriptions, get them clear on plot, because if they're clear on the plot, they would understand cause and effect, and they would know that every conflict has a reaction, and every reaction has certain parts to it. And that is where you really get that development. So if you're interested in learning how to do that, then how to teach narrative writing, that's the program. Just 1 second, sorry. What? Yeah, I tell you, today is the day, right? All kinds of things. So the felines are unhappy with each other. I don't know if you heard it, but it really kind of jarred me. I know my noise canceling headset works really well, but yeah. So yeah, that just kind of threw me off completely what I was saying. I was talking about the plot and how important it is, and laying the foundation for students with plot, and I'm going to be covering that for students. But if you want to know how to do it as an instructor and as a parent helping your child, then this is the program for you with the narrative writing, because you get the poster, you get flashcards, you get worksheets, you get recordings, you get me guiding you how to use the material, and specifically focusing on feedback so you know how to give the feedback to improve the writing. Because, like I said, it's not enough to say, make your story more exciting. How do you do that? What's the strategy? What's the sequence and so on? So my number is on the screen. You can send me a WhatsApp message. You can find me on Facebook. I'll be sharing all the information on that. And for those of you who don't already have my report writing series and narrative writing series, I'm going to put that information here so that now when I post the comments, they go up on Word Coach Youth so that you can check Word Coach Youth on Facebook to get all of the information. Right? So that's the report writing digital series. And then I'm going to add narrative writing digital series where you get um, sample stories, step by step. You get a bit of information on the 12-point plot development. That's my signature plot development strategy. You can get information on that. There's a mini diagram with explanation and worksheets and everything there. But of course, if you need further explanation, I'm helping students in my student program as well as helping parents and teachers in the professional development program. Let's see, what else would be helpful? I'm going to put the link for the courses here as well. And this would be December 2023 courses. So all the courses are there, so you could go check it out, see which ones would be useful to you, which ones would help you develop what you need to work on. But of course, in the meantime, if you aren't interested in any of the courses, I recommend at least getting the worksheets and the digital series so that you can work on it on your own. Because what we're looking for during the vacation period is consistency and making sure you give the child the opportunity to make the mistakes so you could see where they are functioning on their own and then be able to chart a course for development from there and to continue. Because come January is going to be practice test after practice test and drilling. So there's going to be a lot more intensity, and you don't want your child or your students to feel overwhelmed because they're unsure about certain things. Remember, I spoke about the confidence factor. Give them the opportunity to make the mistakes, show them that the mistakes are okay because then you can help them fix it, and then give them the strategy to fix it, and then give them another opportunity to fix it and to show that they understand. And that's really what you're aiming for to build that confidence in the writing and comprehension too, actually. So with that in mind, let's talk a little bit about the rewriting of stories. So at this point, students should have had the, I guess, basic foundation. So they know they need character description. They know they need setting description. They know they need the plot. They know they need to add in emotions and reactions and how to analyze a prompt and respond. What they need to recognize at this point is that we've touched on the editing and those strategies. And so what you want to do from this week here, what you want to do is to go back to any copies of stories that they've written before, even from standard 4. You can go all the way back there if you have those copies, but you want to select, I would say 3. Yeah? Select at least 3 stories that your child or students have written before and go through with them the stories. So you want to sit with them, go through the stories, identify what works, what didn't work with the knowledge that they have now, and allow them to implement their new knowledge by rewriting the story with what they know now. Because that's going to do 2 main things, right? One is going to help the student see challenges in their own writing and therefore make them more critical, more creative in their responses. So they would be able to identify their own challenges. And you're also giving them the opportunity to fix the challenges so they get practice with fixing their own writing. So it's awesome to get a random story and have them rewrite it, but rewriting their own writing is really where the main lesson is. And so for this term, we looked at several of the different topics, how to combine the concepts, how to do introductions, and so on. And now, coming out of that, a student should be able to look back at their own writing and say, hey, I didn't include this in the introduction. And so they make notes and then rewrite it, really have them rewrite it. So here's what you're doing for the narratives. So there are, like I said, 3 weeks. Yeah, you should have 3 full and clear weeks for the December break. So week one, you revise story one. Week two, you revise story two. Week three, you revise story three. And here's how you're doing it. So you get a copy, you have the copy of the original story, and you spend one evening analyzing it. So you need to have the prompt. Make sure you have the prompt. If you don't have the prompt, work out a prompt that is um, as close to what you could remember the prompt would have been as possible, because it's important that students recognize that they have to be able to respond effectively to prompts. So you start with the story that they've written, have them analyze it. So have them check the plot, have them check for descriptions and figurative language. So you're going through the editing process. Do that one evening and you make notes. That should take you about half an hour or so, because if you have the digital series, you would have a checklist and a worksheet. If you don't, you can use the well, aside from getting a copy, which is what I recommend because everything is there for you, go back to the holistic rubric and you'd get a breakdown of what is required at the exemplary level. And that's what you're working with, the exemplary level, because that's what you're aiming for, right? So spend one evening, 30 to 45 minutes, analyzing this story. Next evening, plot the story again. So, based on the analysis, do a revised plot of the story. Next evening, you want to rewrite the introduction and the beginning of the story, which is the first part of the conflict, and you're paying attention to certain things like character development, descriptions, and so on. And then the next evening, you finish off the story, making changes to paying special attention to intervention and climax and that lesson learned. And then the next evening, what you're doing is taking a look at the new story that was just written and seeing how it compares to the old story, what was better written, what was done well, and you can even see areas that you might want to develop further. So you're spending at least 5 sessions, 30 to 45 minutes each, on working on the one story. So that's week one. And then week two, you do it again with a different story. Week three, you do it again with a different story. And so you're getting consistent review, you're getting consistent practice with the narratives. You are allowing the child to go through his or her own writing and develop confidence in his or her own writing, because guess what? When you look at that story that was back then and you see how much better it is now because of all that you've learned, confidence, because hey, look how far I've come. We do need to see that sometimes. So this is an ideal practice to do something like that. Now, in the meantime, of course, if there are specific areas that you know your child is still struggling in, then I know many schools are having vacation programs. There are lots of vacation programs out there. I am doing some of my own. Enroll them in a vacation program, because that vacation program is not going to take all of their time. My programs run, if you're doing comprehension and reports, for example, comprehension is 2 hours, reports is 2 hours, and I'm doing most of the activities in class. Your practice you would be doing outside of class, but it's like maybe about half an hour or so. So it's not going to take up all the time. So there's still time to have some fun, still time to relax, sleep in a little bit if they don't have other programs going on. And that gives them some practice with a little bit of relaxation still. And that's what you're aiming for. So when it comes to review, take the time to do review. You want to review the reports, you want to review narratives, you want to really check in and see what students know, what they still need to know, and have that constant reinforcement. Because unless they're doing it every day or at least 3 to 5 times a week, students will not remember exactly what you tell them. I teach the 12-point plot, and I ask my students almost every class, do you remember what the plot is? Do you remember what is the 12 point? Do you remember the quick plotting plan? So I know students would not be able to do a whole 12-point plot during an exam context. So we learn that, so they memorize that first, and then I show them a quick plotting plan that's going to take them 5 minutes or less using the same concepts from that 12 points. So they have to know the 12 point first, and then we do that quick plotting. So 5 minutes or less to organize and structure your ideas and to keep yourself on track. That is more valuable than just getting to write because you think time is going to be running out. It's going to be far more useful for you to have a guide. So that's what you do, that's what you're practicing. Those are the kinds of things that you want to spend your time on over the vacation. So like I said, what you're aiming for is um, identifying any areas that may still need touching up, working on touching up those areas, giving the effective feedback, allowing students to really engage with their own writing and not, prescribing things for them. Show them that, hey, your writing is good enough and you're getting better. You're going to do a good job. So minimize the anxiety over the break while still working on having some practice and revision and that kind of thing. And so I think for reports, well, we're reviewing natural disasters. For narratives, you are looking at rewriting some stories. And of course, if you're aiming for any understanding of either one and you're not sure about what to do exactly, enroll your child in one of my programs, or you yourself can have a program. It's just 1 week as well, 4 days for the teacher training, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. So it's at the end of the day. I try to put it as the most convenient time as possible so that I can help you. And with that teacher training program, the professional development, what I'm doing this time around is something that I've been thinking about doing for a while now. I'm going to be opening up a Facebook group where everyone enrolled in the program has access to the group, which means you have access to me from that point forward. So I will be checking in the group, and these groups will be with two separate groups. One group for how to teach narratives, another group for how to teach reports, so that you can get specific guidance, specific questions answered, and continued support. Because we all do need support. I even myself, as a writing specialist, I have colleagues that I check in with, and I'm constantly learning and developing, constantly doing short courses, upgrading my skills because there is always an easier and more efficient way to get things done. And so I'm constantly upgrading, and I'm going to be sharing all that I can with you during the time, plus giving you the resources that you can continue with afterward. So that's the whole idea. For the comprehension, so we have narratives and reports covered. For the comprehension is a particular thing. And what I wanted to do today is to show you something. I really wanted to just do a quick review on, we'll look at the 2021 comprehension. That's from the SCA exam. and we'd also look at 2022. Last week we looked at the 2023. So let's just look at the 21 and the 22 here. And if you don't have a blank copy of the exams, you don't know where to find them, they are on my website, free to download. So let me just share that link with you. Um, it's to find it is on the page with Journey to SEA, where I archive all the videos from this series. But I'll give you the direct link in the chat, in the comments. And remember to get the comments, you're going to Wood Coach Youth on Facebook. All right, so here it is. And I have from 2019. Now, I'm not going back to 2019 because from 2020, things were a little bit different. 2023 is the most current format of the exam. But of course, um, we want to take a look. I say from 21 to 23, that's a good range. But of course, you have access to, if you go to that link, SEA, ELA past papers on my website, woodcoach.com, you would get 2019, 2020, 21, 22, 23, both the ELA and the creative writing. So I have all of them there included, so you can have that information there, right? So if you don't have a copy of the exam, you can go there and check, get a copy, because it's very useful to review the past papers. And of course, if you want solutions for the ELA, I have answers. Those come at a cost though, but it's just $150. And what you get is you get the full exam, complete exam, with the solutions. I have the answers plus an explanation of why that answer works better than other answers. And you also get them grouped into sections. Because if your child is having, let's say they're okay with the comprehension text, but they're having a challenge with poetry, then you might want to zero in on the poetry and see what the exams look like. So instead of having to like flip through, I've grouped it, grouped the answers, grouped the blank exams as well. So you get a copy of that so that you can do that kind of thing. And again, if you're interested in any of those things, you can reach out to me on Facebook as well as send me a WhatsApp message, and I'd be able to help you with that. But let's start with 2021, and we're looking at what the comprehension text was. So let me just share screen. Window, I think it's this one, right? So you should see that in a bit. Okay. Yeah, we need to get that bigger. Yep, that's much better. All right, so this is the comprehension. We have task 4, which is the nonfiction. So this passage was a nonfiction passage. It's generally about one page, usually between, 20 to 25 roughly pages. And then we have the questions. So now with the questions, we're going to um, usually the way the questions are ordered, you get questions that ask for content, so like details. So according to paragraph 1, where can we find that? State 2 features, give 2 reasons why, and then we go on to explain the meaning, um, state 2 ways. So state usually means it's in the passage directly. Then what would we get? Should another fish be introduced? So this is your own idea based on what is written in the passage. And then what's the purpose of the passage? Now, I think that would have been either last week or 2 weeks ago. We did look at purpose because purpose is important. I mean, look, there's a question on purpose in the comprehension, and so it's something to pay attention to. So in comprehension, we've identified we do nonfiction. Then we can have poetry, and with the poetry again, similar kind of structure where you get content, then you get figure of speech, um, author's intentions, I guess you'd call that. What do you think? And suggest two ways as your own ideas, and then explain meaning. Then we have what you think again, give reasons for your answer. Notice they all ask for that kind of thing, giving reasons for your answer. So we have nonfiction, poetry, and now we have the graphic. With the graphic, again, state two ways. So that's a recurring kind of question where you get the, I guess, what do you call that? Content details. Who would be, give two reasons, do you think? So, the do you think questions come different ways and you answer them in different ways for the different types of questions, but you notice that they're all always there. So far we have three, right? Nonfiction, poetry, graphic. We also can encounter fiction, and I think the 22 was fiction. Actually, 2022 was also nonfiction. So let's share that. So it's a 23 was fiction, right? So the three types of passages that students can encounter with comprehension. So nonfiction, fiction, poetry, graphic. They usually get three in the exam. The comprehension section, task 4, is usually either fiction or nonfiction. So students need to be able to respond to both, right? So this is the 2022. Again, identify two, main idea, give the meaning. So we have vocabulary questions, two benefits, one upkeep. So this is a kind of comparison. Then we have what do you think? Then we have again another what do you think? All right, and then we go on to the poetry. What do we see? State one service, give, identify. We have figurative language, mood, what lesson you might learn. Um, this is kind of like an extension question. So it's an inferential question, yes, but it's an extension based on the student's idea, and you have to explain, which means give a reason for your answer, right? Two lines from the poem which illustrate. So this would be interpretation as well, inferential. How do you feel? That's the last question. Then let's see what this graphic was about. So some sort of flyer, and then list two options, name an element. And then, well, we went through graphics in a lot more detail last week. So you can get back to that video to get more about that. And then that's the end. So when it comes to comprehension, making sure that your child understands that there are differences between the different kinds of comprehension, and you don't want them to approach all comprehension the same way. You want them to approach them differently, have a strategy for each one, and you want them to recognize that there are different kinds of questions, not just inferential versus literal. There are different kinds of inferential questions. What do you think? How do you feel? Um, explain, and so on. And then the literal questions, state, identify, list. So there are different words that indicate which and ask you to do slightly different things. And so students need to be able to understand that. So this week, when you're working on comprehension, take a look at each one separately. And you can start with the past papers grouped. You can get a copy just for 150 with answers and explanations. Send me a message. My number is on the screen. Or you can enroll in the comprehension program. 350, we go through each one of these and into details of what it is I was just explaining to you, passing. So we go into poems, types of questions that you can get, how to answer them. Fiction, types of questions you can get, how to answer them. Non-fiction, types of questions you can get, how to answer them. Graphics, same thing. Types of questions you can get, how to answer them. And like I said, as I fumbled through the beginning of the session today, I'm finished. Well, almost finished. I have one more thing to do before I can send them out, but they're going out today. Um, I'm doing for the comprehension, I'm doing a pre-test and a post-test. Same thing for the narratives and the reports. So I'm sending out information for students to do an assessment before they begin the class. During the class, we will do practice, and then at the end, we'll do another assessment. Yeah, that's my cue. Time to wrap up. I'm over the hour. I really do try to stay within the hour, but today's our last session and there's so much to cover that I wanted to, just wrap it up a little bit. So yeah, so we're doing pre and post. And then for the narratives and the reports, what I'm doing this time around, which is something that I sort of kind of did last year, but a little bit differently out of necessity. I realized how useful it was for students. This year, I'm doing it as part of the program where I meet. So we have the group classes, but then I meet with each student individually for about half an hour to deal with their own specific issues and to discuss the responses that they would have given me during the term and during the session so that I can give them specific details. When I run my individual programs but my group programs during the term, like this year I did reports and narratives. I gave each student two one-on-one sessions. So you have the group class, but then at the midpoint, I do a 30-minute one-on-one. And then after everything is said and done, I do another 30-minute one-on-one to guide students into what they can cover individually over the break. So I've completed, I think I have one more today, and then I'm closed off for the term. So that's going to help because what really helps students is the feedback. So they need the information to know what to do, but then the first time they tried, it seldom ever works out perfectly. So we need to give them feedback on what worked, what didn't, how to fix it. And that's how we end things off. So, all right. So I think that's a whole lot of information. And wrapping up, let me just check one thing. Because I really want to make sure that you have the kind of information that you need going into the break. I know many questions come to me, like for example, another tutor was explaining to me these are the kinds of questions that she gets as well, about transition words, when to use a transition, do you always have to have an outcome? Are you allowed to write in first person? All of these questions I have touched on during this series, and so you can go to my website, you can go to YouTube, you have all the videos archived and check through. You will get answers to all of these. So if you do nothing else during the break, definitely go through the videos, see what information is there, because at this point, I have covered everything that a student or parent would need to know about reports and report writing that you can implement and make changes and develop the student's writing. And so all you need to do now is practice. So come January, it is reports, narratives, writing, refining, and that's what we'll be focusing a lot on. So you're welcome. And thank you guys. For those of you who make your comments from time to time, please, I sincerely appreciate them because sometimes, like I said, I feel like I'm talking to like nobody in particular. So when you comment and you ask questions, I'm like, yes, it's worthwhile and I'm helping. So you're absolutely welcome. And hi, good morning. I think that's Jaden. So hi, good morning, Jaden. Thank you for checking in. All right, guys. So thank you so much. So I'm not going to be here with you next week, Tuesday. In fact, my resumption would be January 9th, right? So our lives will resume January 9th, 2025, 2024. Why am I skipping a whole year? All right, so that's when we resume January 9th, 2024. And so I'll be off of the lives, but I'll still be in SEA, the Peace-Filled Approach. I'm still going to be sharing content on my Facebook page, Word Coach Youth. And for those of you who are joining me for the training, the professional development training, I'm going to be in those Facebook groups, making sure that you have what you need. Um, Going into next year and beyond. So, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an awesome time, and this is where I sign off, I guess. It feels so kind of bittersweet, but like I said, I'm really excited to get into the comprehension program next week and to engage with the teachers and parents who have already enrolled. Enrollment is still open for the teacher training program. Um, all enrollments close on Friday, which is December 8th. But message me, let me know if you're interested and if you're having any challenges, and we'll see how we could work something out. Because, like I said, this is my passion, this is my mission. I really want to help as many students as possible, but I'm only one teacher. So if I could help as many teachers and parents as well, the range would be much wider, and that's really what I want to do. So thank you again, and I look forward to resuming with you in January. I'm not gonna say Happy New Year just yet because I'll be around. I'll probably send a Happy New Year message, because I do appreciate all of you for joining in. All right, so take care, have a good one, and I'll see you when I see you sometime next year. Bye bye.